Today, we've got a skein of 100% Tibetan silk, slubby, earthy, and rescued from a landfill thanks to a nonprofit called FabMo. It's 180 yards, Aran to worsted weight, and unlike anything you're likely to find in your local yarn shop. It's unique, it's textured, and Nicole, one of our viewers, wrote in asking, what should I make with this? Hello, 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 and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Midweek Ramble. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. We are continuing the What Should I Make With This series with another skein of yarn sent in from a lovely viewer named Nicole. In this series, I take skeins from your stash that you're not sure what to do with and come up with a few ideas of things you could make with that yarn. Now, I don't physically take the skeins. They're sent to me via email from viewers just like you. You send me information about your preferences, the actual craft that you get up to, whether it's knitting or crochet or something else. You give me a little bit of an idea of things that you like and maybe something that you're ultimately going for. And if you don't mind, you can also provide me with any measurements that I might need so that it's easier for me to find patterns that have sizes that will accommodate you. Nicole sent in this gorgeous silk yarn that you see here. And in a moment, I'm going to share the email that she sent to me so you can get the whole background on what's going on here. However, before we jump in, some things to remember as we move through this is that silk, though luxurious, is not like wool in the way that it behaves. It doesn't bounce back and it doesn't have that kind of resiliency. However, it has unmatched drapiness, and that's something we really want to consider. And with a slubby texture like you see here, we want to keep the design simple so that that really lovely texture shines through. And of course, with only 180 yards, we really need to keep scale in mind as well. Here is the email that Nicole sent me. This skein is 100 grams and 180 yards and 16 stitches to 4 inches. That puts it somewhere between worsted and Aran weight in my mind. And I can kind of see from the photos that it falls into that category as well. The slubs, those little thick and thin bits that you see in the yarn, give it a really lovely rustic texture, while the silk itself gives it that really nice natural sheen. A yarn like this, and I've experienced this firsthand, feels a little bit stiff at first. However, when you wash it and block it, it softens up beautifully into something very luxurious and supple and lovely. This yarn is perfect for projects that need a little bit of structure, but an awful lot of character. This yarn is perfect for projects that require a little bit of structure, but an awful lot of personality. Now, the way that I'm formatting these episodes is providing patterns in tiers, and I break this down into 3 tiers based on how risky the pattern might be or how well the pattern might work with the yarn that was submitted by the viewer. Tier 1 patterns are called the safe bets. These are projects that are almost guaranteed to work with the yardage requirements, meterage requirements, and fiber type. Simple shapes, straightforward stitches, and designs that let the yarn shine. Moderate options are still very doable, but they most often will push the yardage requirements to the very limit or add a little bit more structure or detail that could go either way depending on how the yarn behaves. And then we have tier 3, which are riskier or designs that might need a little bit of a tweak to work. These are projects that might require adjusting the pattern, trimming the repeats, or pairing the skein with another strand of yarn. These can pay off big, but they also carry a lot more uncertainty. All right, let's begin with tier 1. These are the safe bets, and I have 2 patterns here for you today. The first one is the One Skein Slant by Lisa Dijkstra. This is a cowl designed specifically for one skein of yarn between that 180 and 200 yard range. The diagonal construction gives it visual impact, but it's not really very fussy, which means that really lovely slubby silk can still be the main event. This is the kind of project where you're not playing yarn chicken, you're not fighting with the fiber, and you end up with something wearable and even giftable. The next design that I have for the safe bets is the Honey Cowl by Antonia Shankland. Now, this cowl calls for DK weight yarn, but because we are working with a cowl here, I feel like it's a really safe bet because you can change up the needle size to accommodate the yarn that you're using, and you don't really have to worry too much about sizing here. The Honey Cowl is a classic slip stitch pattern that works beautifully with lovely hand-dyed yarns or textured yarns. For the short version, you need about 150 to 175 yards, which fits Nicole's skein just perfectly. The slip stitches break up the fabric and highlight the texture of the shine beautifully without being overwhelming. And it's going to sit close to the neck where the lovely softness of that fiber can really be appreciated. It's the definition of a safe bet. Straightforward to knit, beautiful to wear, and a design that just flatters this kind of yarn. Okay, let's move on to tier 2. These are moderate options. These are options that might push the yardage a little closer or have some design elements that require a little bit more consideration. The first is the Low Key Cowl by Elizabeth Smith. This is a clean and modern cowl with this really awesome split hem and garter ridges. It's listed at about 200 yards, which pushes the yardage just a little, but if you're okay with shortening it a bit, it should work just fine. And that split hem detail is my favorite. It gives it much more of a garment-like accessory as opposed to just a loop of fabric. So it's interesting without being overcomplicated. Okay, the next pattern that I have here for the moderate picks are the Freya fingerless mittens. Actually, the Freya silky fingerless mitts, number 423. To be exact. These mitts were designed for a merino silk blend and use about 180 yards of yarn. So it's a close match to Nicole's skein, but it is completely without merino in the case of Nicole's skein, and that's something we need to consider, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. The design is simple: ribbing at the cuff for fit and smooth stockinette for the hand, which really lets the yarn shine here. And then there's some more ribbing at the top of the hand at the fingers to provide a little bit of fit there as well. But here's the thing with silk. It doesn't have much stretch, and mitts need that snug fit to stay put. One way to add some resiliency here is to carry a second strand where you need it to fit best. And in the case of these mitts, that would be the cuff and the area around the fingers. Something very fine that won't overwhelm or detract from the yarn. Options could be a nylon reinforcement thread, kind of like what you would use to knit a pair of socks, even though some people say that you shouldn't do that. And the reasons they say you shouldn't do that, I don't think would apply as much with mittens. You could also consider a strand of lace weight wool so that you add a little bit of that resiliency back without, like I said, overwhelming or detracting from the beautiful silk yarn. Or if you want to add a little something extra that is going to add a little bit more of an element to the yarn, you could consider pairing it with a lace weight silk mohair option. It's going to give you even more silk, but it's also going to provide some mohair, and all of that together will provide a little bit of structure and recovery, so the mitts are going to hold their shape over time, and you can still use that gorgeous Tibetan silk yarn to create such a lovely, luxurious piece. Or accessory. And finally, we are at the tier 3 pattern. This is the risky one. This is where you're probably going to need to make some tweaks to make it work, but if you're willing to do that, it could be just the perfect thing. This is the Whatever Cowl by Ani Knits. This is a reversible cowl with textural changes and a slit detail. It looks modern and sculptural, especially in a yarn with some character, like Nicole's. The catch is the yardage. It's listed at 197 to 219 yards, so Nicole's skein comes up short. But if you're willing to tweak it or stop a little early, the result could be a real statement piece. So what would you do with 180 yards of Tibetan silk? Would you keep it safe with a one skein cowl like the Honey Cowl? Try something more structured like the Low Key Cowl? Or go bold and riskier with a Whatever Cowl? Or would you do something else entirely? Drop your comments down below and let's provide Nicole with a great bank of options where she can go to find just the right design for her gorgeous skein of yarn. Nicole, thank you so much for rescuing this lovely skein of silk yarn. And for those of you that would like to know more about the nonprofit FabMo, definitely check down in the description box. I provided links down there. And if you've got a skein in your stash that's stumping you, send a picture my way for a future episode. Until next time, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.